Okay, I'm going to tell you a story. I wrote this book back in the early 80s. I've been going around the country. I had way too much adrenaline and way too much youth, and I just threw myself at this thing. And for 3 years, I taught 180 workshops around the United States. I appeared over 750 times in radio, television, and newspapers to promote those workshops. And PBS said, wow, this is really cool. People really like this subject. We want to make a series of how to make alcohol with you and sell a book about it at the end. This was a new idea at the time. Only one book had ever been sold on PBS before, and that was Yan Can Cook, about Chinese cooking. So this was the second book. And so we spent 2 years working on this book. I went 1,500 miles all over the Pacific Northwest and California to visit my students and others who were making alcohol as a result of my classes. And we got all their stories, we filmed all their operations, and we did a condensed version of my 8-hour workshop, which was all how-to, not all this stuff, it was strictly how-to, that I'd been teaching for a couple of years. And it came out to be a 10-part series, 10 half-hour shows. And I was right here in this town, because back then, the Oregonian, as a sideline, used to print books, and they gave me the best bid. So I was up here in Portland. The series had been on the air for two or three segments by then. We had 5,000 orders from 3 segments in San Francisco, just in San Francisco. And I'm up there, we're working on getting back then it was not desktop publishing, it was a whole process to making a book. And they get a call and they say, send our check back to the TV station that had paid for all this. And I get back and I see that the remaining show segments have the book advertisement taken off the end. And that the 120 PBS stations that had signed up to air the show after its premiere in San Francisco were denied the series. They weren't allowed to have it. And I finally after weeks, got through to one of the board members of KQED. And he said, well, it's really simple, Dave. We get lots of money from Chevron now. And they called up Tony, the director, and said, what's wrong? You don't like our money? And that's all it took, one phone call. If this book would have come out in 1983 like it was scheduled to, we would not have been in Gulf War I. We wouldn't be in Iraq today. We wouldn't need any of that oil. We just wouldn't need it. And we would have tens of millions of jobs in the United States in rural areas where they're needed, making fuel for this country. And, I got to tell you, even though I'm telling my own story, I'm going to tell you a quick aside. We've spent $320 billion already in Iraq. We use 160 billion gallons of alcohol a year, gasoline a year. It costs $1 per gallon of capacity to build alcohol plants. So for $160 billion, we can build enough plants to make all the alcohol we need to replace all the gasoline, with half of what we've already spent in Iraq. And it never would stop. We'd keep producing it year after year. If you look at the U.S. military budget, it's $500 billion a year. That we know about. Well, it might be $1 trillion, but the published figure is $500 billion. The world uses 500 billion gallons of fuel a year. If we just decided to shut down the war machine for 1 year and took that money and built alcohol plants in every country that were producing all the food that anybody would ever need, what would there be left to fight over? 1 year. That's all it would take. It's not going to happen. We have to do it. Okay? We can do it. There's nothing about this that's rocket science. This is moonshining. This is mankind's second oldest profession. We can do this. Cars are already sold by Detroit that run on alcohol or gas or any mixture. We didn't get into conversion, but any gasoline car can be converted to run on alcohol for a few $100s. We can do this.
So are you allowed to make alcohol in Bitcoin?
You're allowed to make up to 5,000 gallons on a free permit from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, but several of you can share the same still and each have your own permit.
So we could do this on a neighborhood level and have farmers doing CSAs growing fuel and
The concept we're promoting in the book, because I was a CSA farmer for 10 years. Everybody know what that is? A CSA farmer takes subscriptions. Instead of borrowing money from the bank to pay for all the inputs, grow the crop, deliver it to a terminal, and wait 60 days to get paid by the corporation, a CSA farmer contracts with a group of people to provide their food. And each one of them pays in advance for their food, which is when the farmer needs the money. And through the year, they get a box of food every week from the farm. And in this way, farmers are getting full retail with no middlemen, and they can make a living doing this on small acreage. And I fed 450 people in 150 shares, 150 boxes every week, 48 weeks a year in California because we have a short winter. Piece of cake, made plenty of money. The average corn farmer makes $50 an acre. I made $100,000 on 2 acres. So I think when it comes to farming, I have some room to talk. So the point is, if we do community-supported energy, and we have obviously opportunity to do community-supported other kinds of food than vegetables here, we can just transform the system. So if a bunch of you got together and contracted with a farmer that had some acreage to grow your sugar beets and make your alcohol, and delivered it to a station in town that you could all fill up at, this is not complicated. This is all doable.